Monet Garden. I hope you all are doing well. I have sent a big piece of white paper home, and we are focusing on an artist by the name of Claude Monet. Claude Monet was born in Paris, France, and I added a couple videos on the Padlet that are a great way for you to not only see his artwork, but to also hear about his life. And we are going to focus on a painting that he has done multiple times called Japanese Footbridge. Now, in the back of his house in Giverny, you can actually visit there. He's not living anymore, but you can go visit there. He had these beautiful gardens put in, and he had this little footbridge. It's not for cars, it's not for bikes. It was just called, it's a footbridge where you just can walk across. And if you ever have a chance to go visit, you can actually walk on the bridge that he was very, very common in his paintings. So at your house, I know that all of you have been given watercolor paints. So if this is what you have, please feel free to use these. If you are someone and you're thinking, Mrs. Berry, I have regular paints, maybe craft paint, tempera paint, acrylic paint, you could also use those. Now today I am going to only be using green, blue, and yellow. When I think of these colors, these work well together. They are next to each other on the color wheel. I also know that blue and yellow will make green, but I don't have to think about washing my brush today because these colors will mix very, very nicely. So one of the fun facts about Claude Monet is he did not paint real smooth. He wanted to capture one moment in time. So when he would do that, he would paint very quickly. He wanted to capture the way the sun was hitting the water. The sun was hitting the leaves and making the leaves sparkle and shimmer. He wanted to capture those moments. So he was painting very, very quickly. And so I am going to begin with the color green. So I will do a little bit of both so you can see the difference here. So with my green, remember you want to have enough water. You don't want watercolor to be gooey or sticky. Okay, and I'm going to start up in the corner of my paper with my green. Now this green is going to represent the tops of my trees. So in his garden, there's all these weeping trees that were over the water. So I will continue working. And so I'm going to do a lot of the green in my two corners here, okay? Now this would be with the watercolor. Remember, you might have some areas that are darker, some that are lighter, but I'm just painting very quickly. Little tiny mixtures and brush strokes. Okay, if you're using the regular paint, I can do the same thing. This is a little bit brighter. You could even combine the two if you wanted. That would be called mixed medium, where you're using two different types of paint. Okay, so I will show you both things. And it's always great if you want to put a piece of scrap paper or newspaper or like a paper towel under your paper, then you never have to worry about going off and onto furniture. So notice I'm not painting real smooth, just real splotchy, letting there to be like some brush strokes in there, like little tiny brush strokes, not big long ones. Okay, so I have the trees. I'm not going to finish there because there's green everywhere in the painting, but I also know a lot of the green is along the top of the water where those grasses would be. Sometimes when we see ponds or rivers, we see something called cattails. There's also just really long grass because it's hard to get in there and mow. So I will show you. I'll do one side with watercolor, one with the tempera paint. So some fun facts. Claude Monet, he invented a type of art called Impressionism. That was that whole idea of one moment in time. People hated his artwork when he started. He could hardly ever get it in art shows, but it didn't stop him. He said, well, that's all right. I like what I'm doing. So he continued working, and he never let that stop him from doing the paintings outside. And I think that's really encouraging because not everyone is going to enjoy a certain type of art, but it's great to look at it, to appreciate it. Okay, so I am putting some green down here. I'm not going to put as much, but there is some green because of the reflection of the water. So even over here. And your hand might get a little tired from doing this, so if you ever need to put it aside, let it sit, let it dry, come back to it later, that's fine. And this week, like I said, we're going to be building up the colors. This week, we will just focus on the green, the blue, and the yellow. And then in the upcoming weeks, I will be adding some other colors. Okay, so there's that. I'm also going to add a little bit up in here because there is a tree even in the center, but it's just a little darker because it's showing the shade. The sun wasn't hitting it, it was more shady in that area, but there is a little. Okay, so you can see most of my green up in the corners along my water. Obviously this side's darker because of the type of paint I'm using. Now I'm going to move into blue. Always wash your brush in between colors. So now I'm going to use blue to show how that area in between these two greens was a little darker. The sun was not hitting it as much. So I'm going to come in here. You can do the same thing down in the water. So the water has lots of blues. The other thing is the water, you might notice some pinks and whites because there are lily pads in those waterways that Claude Monet painted over and over and over and over. So we will think about that. All right, put some blue in there. I'll do some blue with this one. Like I said, this one's going to be darker because it's a different type of paint. Water paint, watercolor is more watery. So what's fun here is if the green and if the blue mix, it's going to make what's called blue-green. A lot of times we will characterize it as, or call it turquoise. So those colors mix really well together. I'm going to do the same thing up here, add some of that blue. Like I said, think of my painting, I'm doing two different types of paint. I know everyone has watercolor, but if you want to use regular paint, if you have it at home, you can do that. Okay, so I have my trees, the grass, the water. My last color is going to be yellow. So in Claude Monet's artwork, he doesn't have this big golden sun at the top. Instead, he shows the shimmer of the sun in the trees and in the water. I call this kind of like the sprinkles of the painting. So I'm going to just take a little bit of the yellow. I just used the wrong one on the wrong side here, let me see. And I'm gonna just sprinkle some of the yellow up into the trees, into the grass, into the water. I'm not using too much. Let me switch over here to my, all right, so have fun doing this. I can't wait to see what you all come up with. And I hope you enjoy. All right, boys and girls, have a great day.